Yesterday, Vice President Joe Biden teased President Barack Obama for his reliance on a teleprompter at a Jewish American Heritage Month reception in New York City. After asking for the teleprompter to be taken down, Biden said, quote, "The standing joke in the office is Barack's learning to speak without a teleprompter. I'm learning to speak with one. I apologize for the teleprompter." Zach, even Biden is giving him crap.
Yeah, the teleprompter thing has become so absurd and so entrenched as a catchphrase. I guess Biden feels safe saying it now. But when this was first being bandied about a couple of years ago, a lot of people thought it was kind of racist. I mean, everybody in politics uses teleprompters, and they have for decades. Like, no one gave Bill Clinton this kind of crap in the '90s for using a teleprompter. But suddenly, when Barack Obama takes up office, there's this knock on his intellect that he needs to use a teleprompter. But it's become such a standard part of the discourse that people aren't even offended by it anymore.
Yeah. Do you think he goes back to the White House and has President Obama say, "Really, Joe? You of all people?"
I never understand that relationship. Joe said a lot of really, particularly off-color things about Obama during the 2008 campaign when they were both sort of rivals for the nomination. But he's been really intensely loyal to the president ever since they came into office together. And it seems like they're very close. I don't think there's anything he can say that will really piss off the president for a long period of time.
He does need to find ways to distinguish himself from the president, right? Because on one hand, he wants to take achievement for things like the Affordable Care Act. If they're able to pass immigration reform, he wants to make sure he's seen as a part of those big policy initiatives. And yet, for the people who think another 4 years, he needs to begin to distance himself, I wonder how he does that.
Right. I mean, if the administration obviously has a lot of accomplishments to play, particularly with Democrats, some that will be playing much better with independents later on, like the Affordable Care Act, which will actually be in effect, people will be benefiting from that. So there won't be the same level of disenchantment with it. But the economy is still going to be kind of ugly at that point. And he's not going to want to have to take credit for 8 years of a weak and sluggish recovery. I'm sure he's going to run. This guy lives for politics. It's his whole raison d'etre. He loves going out on the stump. It's just in his blood. I'm completely certain that he will run. But how you walk that line is pretty tricky. I think you could always say, hey, as vice president, I didn't have control over policy. I was an advisor. And that could be a convenient excuse for all the stuff you want to take credit for. You say, well, I was a key advisor at getting that across the line, and all the stuff you don't want to be an advisor. Well, I was just the vice president. That's not really true, but politicians say all sorts of things that aren't true.